We survive or even thrive on your support, and for that, we thank you.
ECW changed the landscape of professional wrestling forever. Known for its bloody, hardcore matches, edgy storylines, and politically incorrect fun, ECW took the classic brutality of 70s and 80s wrestling and updated it for a modern, extreme era. But even ECW had times when things got a little too wild, a little too crazy, and a little too extreme. In this list, we take a look back at the 8 times ECW got out of hand. So, it's time to get extreme as Wrestle Savage presents 8 times ECW went too far. Number 8. Heyman kicks out fans. During a 10-bell salute to Rick Rude, a fan and her son decided not only to remain seated but also to talk during the silence. This disrespectful act drew the wrath of the Dudley Boys, with Bubba Ray verbally berating the fans. After being called every name under the sun by an irate Bubba Ray Dudley, Paul Heyman came out from the backstage area to try and calm things over. He told Bubba Ray he could do one better and proceeded to give the fans double their money back before kicking them out of the show. This whole incident was captured on fan cam and can be found on our TikTok if you search by most popular videos. Number 7. The Singapore Caning Match. Back in May 1994, Michael Fay made headlines in America for being lashed 6 times with a cane for violating the Vandalism Act after stealing road signs whilst living in Singapore. The incident was all over the American news, giving Paul Heyman an idea: Tommy Dreamer versus the Sandman in a loser gets caned match. While being perfectly booked like most ECW moments, seeing Tommy Dreamer get screwed over and Todd Gordon offering to restart the match, only for Tommy to say no and accept his caning, much to the shock of the entire ECW locker room, the caning is actually very hard to watch. Many in the audience were visually uncomfortable with the brutal lashings that Dreamer was enduring. What makes this particularly brutal is that the cane's plastic plug had not been removed for this angle, meaning that the cane itself was a lot stiffer and a lot more painful when used than it was later in ECW once the plastic cap had been removed. This leads to Dreamer's back being split open and bleeding during this very extreme and over-the-top moment. Number 6. Ring collapse. In 1995, whilst ECW was on tour in Florida, the Public Enemy invited fans at the end of the show to come celebrate their victory over the Gangsters with them in the ring, seeing an entire ring swarmed with rabid ECW fans. The ring completely collapses under the weight and movement of hundreds of fans dancing and waving their arms around whilst partying with the Public Enemy. This moment would become one of ECW's most iconic and be featured in the intro and highlights on Hardcore TV for years to come. Number 5. Fans throwing chairs. Although this is one of the most famous extreme moments where ECW went a little too far, very few people know that it happened twice in 1994 at back-to-back events. First, on July 16, 1994 at Heatwave during the Dory Funk Jr. and Terry Funk vs. Public Enemy No Rope Barbed Wire match, where Terry Funk called for a chair from the fans only for almost everyone to toss a chair into the ring. It then happened again a month later at Hardcore Heaven after Cactus Jack and Terry Funk's match was declared a no contest due to the Public Enemy interfering. This time when Terry Funk called for chairs, the Public Enemy got totally buried under them. If it's one thing you can always count on, it's the extreme nature of those crazy ECW fans. Number 4. Arena Fire. Although no footage of this exists, on October 28, 1995, Cactus Jack used a flaming chair to attack Terry Funk, with Tommy Dreamer shielding Funk from the chair shot. According to the stories Terry Funk and Cactus Jack tell about this incident, the chair had a kerosene-soaked towel taped to it, and the towel came loose when Cactus Jack hit the chair on the ropes, causing it to fly out of the ring and onto Terry Funk's back, setting him on fire. In the panic of trying to put out the fire with extinguishers, the lights were cut off for an angle with Raven and Dreamer, plunging the ECW arena into darkness. A fan would later claim that a piece of this towel had gone in the crowd and that he had suffered burns, even unsuccessfully suing ECW. Terry Funk received second-degree burns from this incident, and to make things even crazier, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, some fans had to go to hospital with minor injuries after fleeing the building in the dark and stumbling over chairs. Number 3. The Sandman's Crucifixion. At ECW's High Incident in 1996, Raven took his feud with the Sandman to offensive new heights, pushing the boundaries of entertainment, offending large amounts of the ECW locker room and audience in the process. This extreme incident cost ECW a young, unsigned Kurt Angle, as he was so offended by what transpired he left ECW never to return. Turns out, the only thing off limits for rabid, bloodthirsty, unforgiving ECW fans is religious iconography. Seeing the Sandman strung up by rope on a wooden cross with a crown of barbed wire on his head by ringside was so offensive that Raven had to later make an apology to the fans. Even today, this extreme and over-the-top moment still triggers people because ECW clearly went too far. Number 2. New Jack and Vic Grimes fall. At the Living Dangerously pay-per-view in 2000, New Jack would suffer a skull fracture leading to brain damage and permanent blindness in his right eye from Vic Grimes landing on his head after the pair fell from scaffolding. New Jack repeatedly blamed Vic Grimes for the incident, as Grimes had gotten cold feet at the top of the scaffolding and didn't want to jump, causing New Jack to pull Vic Grimes with him when he jumped off. This extreme and incredibly reckless bump is very hard to watch, as New Jack's feet hit the table first, sending him headlong into the concrete as Vic Grimes takes a flip bump right on top of his head. It's seriously crazy that both of these guys survived that fall at all. The fall will forever be remembered as one of the most insane things that ever took place in the land of extreme, and it definitely pushed things too far. Number 1. Mass Transit. Of course, the top 2 out-of-hand moments where ECW went too far involved New Jack. As the story goes, a young wrestler by the name of Mass Transit lied about his age and claimed to have been professionally trained. Although Mass Transit was booked for a much different match on the day, Axel Rotten couldn't make the show, and Mass Transit managed to get himself added to the match with Devon Dudley against ECW's most notorious team, the Gangsters. He then asked New Jack if he would cut his forehead open during the match, which was definitely not the smartest thing that somebody could do. Seeing New Jack slice Mass Transit with a surgical scalpel and severing 2 of his arteries. The whole scene is like watching a horror movie unfold, as Mass Transit is screaming and panicking from the amount of blood loss. To make things worse, New Jack jumps from the top rope and knocks him out with one of the most brutal chair shots the wrestling world has ever seen. Thankfully, medical staff instantly attend to Mass Transit, or things could have been a lot worse. Interestingly, this over-the-top moment would see ECW set back significantly, as they lost their debut pay-per-view after the story broke on mainstream news, with Mass Transit suing ECW. This led to the pay-per-view network called Request TV to cancel their pay-per-view. Heyman would later beg and plead for ECW's first pay-per-view, and it would get rescheduled, but this moment almost cost ECW everything.